and welcome to Evolve and Elevate with Erica. I am here again with the wonderful Alicia Johnson. We thank you so much for being with us on tonight. We are doing part two of unlearning dysfunction and identifying your strengths and weaknesses. So we really didn't get that far into it last week because we were stuck on the part of how do we move past the place of dysfunction. And we had some great dialogue last week. And excuse me if you see me fanning, I'm having a personal summer moment right now, but it's okay. We'll keep going. So it's going to be what it is tonight. So we thank you for being here with us. We thank you for joining us and being a part of the conversation. I welcome you. My name is Erica Bishop. I am the host of Evolve and Elevate, and also the creator of Empowered to Prosper Coaching and Consulting. And I'm going to let Alicia introduce herself to you before we get back into this wonderful conversation. So, Alicia, take it away.
Hello, hello. I am Alicia Johnson, the creator of the 1212 community. And the 1212 community is dedicated to helping everyone who chooses to learn how to recalibrate their lives 12 hours for God and 12 hours for man. And that's where I am. That's who I am. I'm going to keep it short so we can dive right in.
Okay, yeah, let's go ahead and dive right in. So, if you missed us last week, we started talking about when we realized that place where we had been in this space of dysfunction and how it robbed of us of our time, our talent, how it robbed us of our progress and some of our purpose. And then when we got to the point of when we became more aware of the cycles that had been repeating, and what we did to start climbing out of that place of dysfunction and beginning to change the narrative of our lives and really our families to stop the place of dysfunction. So when you think about some of the things that we talked about, Alicia, last week, what were some of the things you walked away with?
How far I've come. I'm really proud of myself. I really am. Because I realized after that live, I was like, and I still have a ways to go. So I'm not saying that I'm 100% out of dysfunction, but I realized that I do have some really valuable tools that I've used to progress out of that. And I'm very happy and excited that I don't stay stuck as long as I used to. Like, I can identify the dysfunction immediately now. I can identify when I am entering into a place where I could potentially get stuck, and I get out of it real quick. So that was one of my takeaways. So
Yes.
I'm proud of myself.
Yeah, we when you're not so quick to do some of the things that you used to do that put you back in that cycle, and you move past those default settings that we have to consciously work at changing.
Mhm.
I know one of my default settings was I shut down. I would say I'm fine, everything's good, and walk away just as mad as a hornet and go through that thing several different times in my mind. And oh, I should have said it. Got so bad one time. I was in the car with my children, and the children in the back, and you sitting in the front, and I'm having this conversation in my head. And my children said, "Mama, who you talking to?" I had the neck thing going. I was, da 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 da, and it was like, well, why didn't you say that when you had an opportunity?
Mhm.
Why are you putting yourself in a place where you're in this emotional loop and you keep replaying it in your head, and you had an opportunity to say everything you wanted to say then?
Mhm.
And that was a part of me breaking that cycle of dysfunction, of being honest and communicating
Mhm.
exactly how I felt, exactly
Mhm.
what I thought, and how to get to a place to reason with the other person. And sometimes you understand that you can't.
Mm-hmm.
We have those situations where we don't. And we have to also be okay with walking away with some people who are not going to give an apology and are not going to own whatever we think that they should own, which toggles back into the forgiveness work,
Mm-hmm.
because you got to be okay with you might not get it.
Mm-hmm.
So, when did you get to a place where you had those moments where you had to say, you know what, I break this cycle now? What was one of those pivotal moments for you?
Oh, breaking one of the cycles I had was placing everybody as an authority figure over me. I considered I mean, it was like, oh, this person is this, so they must be really smart, or this person is this, so they must be. So I always put myself underneath everybody. I gave everybody authority over my life. And I think my turning point was like at work, because you have your hierarchy, you have your supervisor, you have people, the food chain. And I would be afraid to say things and speak up because I was afraid I was going to get in trouble. Like, I was so in my mind, I had minimized myself so much in every scenario that I was walking around like a little kid. Like, I was afraid to get in trouble. I'm like, I am a grown woman. I'm like, what is the word? I mean, I literally had to think about what I was doing to myself. People can't just walk up to you and say, you're fired without cause, without, there's a process to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just giving people all this power. It was like, oh my gosh, she could have my job. Oh my goodness, she could fire me. And God was like, how? If
Mm-hmm.
I don't give people permission to do things, it's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I was making other people God in my life. And so the turning point was me at work starting to speak up and starting to say things. And then when I started to have a voice, it would trickle down into my relationships, and it would trickle down into, and I speak up on everything now. I don't care if I'm right. Like my daughter, this is funny. She has no problem speaking up. And so we had this little thing going. It's like, you just loud and wrong. And she say, I'm not loud. I mean, like, she would still have to be right. She may be wrong, but she's not gonna acknowledge that part. She's just gonna, it's like, you just loud and wrong. And she think about, I'm not loud. And then she would just keep moving. And I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
the audacity. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I speak up. It doesn't matter if I'm right or wrong, as long as I say what I need to express, and then we can correct it as we go. I was afraid to speak out because I was afraid of getting in trouble by saying the wrong thing, and that's how you learn.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was one of my turning points.
When you break your silence,
Hmm.
Lord, when you break your silence, then you have to go through the process of people handling the fact that you have a voice.
Hmm. Oh, you're gonna lose all them friends. Just get used to it. I lost them all. I lost everybody. I lost everybody. Because they're so used to you being a certain way. Those relationships were established based on certain personality types.
Right.
And those relationships were established because people had these dominant personalities, and I was
Right.
allowing them to play that role. When the roles switched, they couldn't, that role, they didn't have that role anymore. So all of those relationships, all of them, all of them.
I was taken back a little bit the first time it happened, because I was like, oh my God, what did I do? And it was like you spoke up for yourself.
Mhm.
You're no longer their puppet. You're no longer a person that they can manipulate. Because, see, as you begin to dismantle the dysfunction, discernment kicks in at a higher level. You really begin to operate in a different degree of wisdom.
Mhm.
And you start seeing things that your heart does not want to believe.
Mhm.
Your heart does not want, like, no, it's not that person. No, it could not be.
Mhm.
And I remember it was a situation where I was in a very big transition.
Mhm.
And I don't want to name names, but I was in a very big transition of some people that I held in high regard.
Mhm.
Um, and it was like the scales came off of my eyes. I cried and cried and cried and cried because I had to accept
Mhm.
this is a part of who they are.
Mhm.
And I'm moving you. I needed you to see it so your heart wouldn't be longing to go back.
Oh my God, girl. Oh my. My God.
He said, I'm doing all this now. I'm ripping off the band aid now so that when you walk away, because I'm telling you it's time for you to move on, when you walk
Mhm.
away, there will not be any longing in your heart to go back.
Mhm. 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 And that's why the work that I do personally, as far as like the 12-12 work and all of that, when you learn to operate at the pace that heaven wants you to operate in, heaven has given you that cadence, heaven has given you that pace so that you can operate as powerfully as heaven wants you to operate so you can see everything that you need to see.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times people miss that opportunity because they are chasing the
Come on
money.
now.
They are chasing the relationships. They are chasing, honey. I love the pace that heaven has me to move in because everything is revealed in time. If you allow time to run its course, see, a lot of times people are running ahead of time or they're running behind time. But if you are on time, honey, mm, mm, mm.
So let's dig into that just a little bit. Let's talk about the timing of God, because I think some people we get caught up in other people's pace because there
Mm-mm.
is man's time, which is called chronos, and it's
Mm-hmm.
God's time, which is called kairos.
Mm-hmm.
And see, there are no limitations in the kairos timing of God. And when you align yourself, when you, as Alicia teaches, 12 hours for God, 12 hours for man. When you align yourself with what God has called you to, you fall over into kairos while you're living in chronos.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're operating and you're living in chronos, but your life is set up in kairos, this is when the redeeming of time really becomes a testament for you, because there is nothing missed in the kairos timing of God, because you're up under his timeline, not man's timeline. So this is why when you can get an alignment and you can do something and it only takes you 6 months and it took somebody else 6 years.
Honey, God is the creator of time. God is not bound by time. And this is why it's so much fun for me because I frustrate people. I frustrate people because I move fast when people want me to move slow, and I move slow when people want me to move fast. Oh, I have the emails to prove it. People get hot with me. But honey, it always works out right on time.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that based on how things line up throughout the process.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you are in alignment with what God needs you to do, there's certain things. See, you got to understand there's a part for you to do, a part for heaven to do, and a part for others to do. When your part, heaven's part, and somebody else's part all lines up at the appropriate time, my God,
Mm-hmm.
my God,
Mm-hmm.
you can't
So
mess
let's
that stuff up.
You can't. That's why, and I'm gonna go with it because I'm a part of the 12 community, and I understand. So, and that's why you have to pay attention to everyone and everything that crosses your path. Because when everyone is lined up the way they should be, now understand, God will snatch something out of Chronos and bring it into Kairos just for you.
Just for you.
Just for you.
Because because you have been radically obedient. Radical obedience is what moves you through the process. God, the world will tell you, the Chronos time, the world will tell you. That's right, the Chronos is the world, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The world, I have example after example. My son, when he was going through his situations, they told me point blank that this program that we were trying to get him into took 2.5 years. And they were like, go ahead and see, they wanted me to do that because what they were trying to do was to throw us off track because they didn't want to have to deal with the scenario because my son was getting ready to turn 18. And at 18, they wouldn't have to do anything with him because he would be considered an adult. We had 2.5 months to do what would normally take in the world 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Did God not do it?
Yes,
Honey,
he
he
did.
got into that program the day before his 18th birthday. 2.5 months. 2.5 months. And when I went back to the director to tell the director that my son had gotten in, he said, Miss Johnson, can you come here a minute? He said, how did you do that? I said, what do you mean? He said, honestly, when I sent you over there, I just knew it wasn't a chance in hell for that to happen. I said, see, I wasn't relying on hell.
I love it.
Mm-mm. I wasn't putting my
Woo.
faith in hell. Mm-mm.
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 No,
Mm-mm.
ma'am. Not at all.
No,
Not at
ma'am.
all.
Mm-mm.
So when we get out of this place of dysfunction, thinking that we have to uh, keep up with the Joneses, keep up with the trends, keep up with everything that everybody else is doing. If it's not a part of the pace that God has given you, you're out of step. My steps. I one of my wonderful coaches, his name is Coach Lee Williams.
Mm-hmm.
He said, don't ask God to order your steps if you're not gonna move your feet.
Bravo.
And I was like, oh wow. He said, you ask God to order your steps, but then he tells you what to do, but then you go opposite direction. So
Mm-hmm.
if you want God to order what it is, you are always going to be going against the grain of what everybody else is doing.
Always.
Always.
Always. And you got to get used to standing out like a sore thumb. You got to get used to it. Because if you don't get used to it, you will never truly appreciate how heaven works.
Mm-hmm.
Heaven does above and beyond anything that we can think or imagine.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're going with the flow, you're going with what people can think and imagine.
Mm-hmm.
You're going with someone else's dream. You're going with somebody else's vision. But when you step away, honey, and God specializes in making you look crazy, you've got to be willing to look crazy.
You have to be comfortable with the fact that you're not going to make sense to
None.
anybody.
Zero, zilch, nada. No sense at all. It's not going to make sense until the very end.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the very end, people are like, oh my God, how did all of this happen? How did this? Honey, you had to follow it all the way through because I am not going to take the time to go back and retrace all of the steps. You got to have faith to get through to the end. And when you get through to the end, honey, that reward is layered. It's like the rewards at the end are like on a time release formula. See, in the world, you get to the end and you get the trophy, you get
Mm-hmm.
the prize, and
Mm-hmm.
then at the end, see, the world's promises are empty. And you can tell because people will get all of these things and then there's like, oh, I still feel I'm unfulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get to the end of God's promises, that thing keeps releasing and release. Oh, I didn't even know that was in there. I didn't even know that was in there. I didn't even, you thought that that was it. But then
Mm-hmm.
it keeps opening up. It just
Mm-hmm.
keeps opening. Honey, you
See,
can
that's why
never.
but that's why his promises, he said his promises are yes and amen.
Yes,
So,
girl, preach.
yes and amen. Yes, and it is so. So, it's always going to come with the ta-da at the end. It's always going to come with the shebang, the surprise at the end, because he's not going to allow anyone to outdo. Nobody can outdo what God. My grandma used to say, honey, nobody can beat God's giving, no matter how hard you try.
Nobody.
Nobody. So when we start dismantling the dysfunction that we have to be in everybody else's pace, we have to do it the way the world does it. We have to explain what God is doing in the process. Because right now, because a lot of times you're so focused on trying to be radically obedient, you don't even have time to think about it. You just have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
There is no explanation. I just know I've got to go here at this time on this day to do this thing, and I wait for my instructions for what's next.
Exactly. Exactly. And God does that intentionally so we don't mess it up.
Oh yeah.
If God gives us too many instructions and we understand, see, but we have to understand that encoded in those instructions are the struggles, the troubles, the obstacles. And see, God will say, I need you to show up here at this time and do this so that when this obstacle comes, it's not going to overtake you. You're going to be able to keep moving through. But see, so many of us, we get stuck when we get to the obstacle. And it sounds like, well, God, I can't believe you done brought me this far just to drop me off. I was that person.
Oh yeah.
When you feel like you're moving along at a nice little clip and then something happens and then you take it personally. Like, what did I do to mess it up? Am I outside of your will? Am I missing this? And we hesitate and we stop. God was like, this is all a part of the plan.
Mm-hmm.
God, Jesus tells us there will be trouble. That's not
Mm-hmm.
even up for discussion. But be of good cheer. Like, I've overcome all of that. It's encoded in the process. It's
So
encoded.
where do we get this notion that we're supposed to be perfect?
The world. The world.
Because God never said to be perfect. He just said to be obedient. Now that
Obedient.
don't mean to be raggedy. Now let me put the disclaimer out there so y'all don't say Erica Bishop said and Alicia said on Evolve and Elevate with Erica you're supposed to be raggedy. I did not say that. We find ourselves trying to strive for a place of perfection
Mm-hmm.
to meet the world standards, and we understand that the goalpost is always moving. So you will never reach that place of perfection. And that's why you find yourself chasing after stuff that you feel like you never can obtain because the world doesn't want you to obtain it. They just
Mm-mm.
want you to follow it.
The
Keep
carrot.
going after it. It's the dangling carrot.
They're dangling it. And once you stop, for me, once I stop chasing money, once I stop trying to live up to other people's idea, once I stop trying to be of the world, once I stop trying to fit into the world, honey, my life got everything in my life turned around.
We got Alicia in
Everything.
slow motion.
Hmm. Oops. Did you freeze, Erica? Oh no, I think she froze. Did she freeze, y'all? Can y'all hear me? I just don't want to. If you can hear me, just say you can hear me and I'll keep going until she comes back. You can hear me. Okay. So the there she comes. Okay, I was like,
Yes.
Erica, I keep it going for you.
I'm talking and thinking I'm keeping it going, but hold on. Let me see. You're frozen on this other page. Hold on, y'all. We're gonna get it together.
Okay,
Hold
because
it, hold it, hold it, hold it. Hold it, hold it. Oh, the enemy
okay,
mad right now.
okay, are we
Well, it
good? I
still
think
has
we're both good
frozen.
now.
Well, let me
Okay,
see because on my end it still has you frozen, but we can
okay. People say they can hear
keep
me, and
going.
then somebody says somebody's frozen. I don't know who's frozen, you or me. Okay, but let's keep going.
Okay.
Keep going. One monkey don't stop no show. So, just
Well, it's,
so.
it's, it's a little.
Hmm. Okay, so who's Erica's frozen? Okay, I'm not frozen. Oh, the enemy must be mad, mad. Anyway, so what were we talking about? We're talking about the trouble piece. So trouble is encoded in the process. Perfection is what the world wants us to subscribe to, but no one is perfect. No one is perfect. We're not going to let the enemy win with this. We're going to keep this party going. So, as far as perfection is concerned, perfection is what the world does so that we can continue to be and ride on this hamster wheel, but no one is perfect. And when you take perfection out of the equation, your life is going to elevate immediately because you don't have to be perfect when you're working with a perfect God. You don't have to have all of the answers when you're working with heaven and God knows all of the answers. You only have to understand what is your part to do, understand that someone else has a part to do, and understand that heaven understands the totality of the scenario. And when you begin to understand that, you move differently and you're also able to handle so much more. When you are able to understand that there is a part for you to do and you focus solely on your part, then it frees you up to allow other people to do what they need to do. And when you begin to understand this, you begin to understand how much heaven wants you to win. Heaven wants us to win so much so that heaven allows us the opportunity to be such a part of heaven's plan that heaven has incorporated other people's skills, other people's talents, other people's ideals, other people's resources so that we can all win. When the world gives us an idea, the world makes us believe that in order for someone to win, someone else has to lose. In order for someone to win, someone else has to suffer. But when you are operating in God's economy, there is no competition in God's economy. There is absolutely no competition in God's economy. There is enough for me. There is enough for Erica. There is enough for each and every person that is on this planet. If God has allowed us to have breath in our bodies and to be here on this planet at this particular time, then guess what? There is room for you. The world wants you to believe that there's not space for you. The world wants you to believe that there are the haves and the have-nots. The world wants you to believe that there's certain people that are just destined to do certain things. But honey, if you have breath in your body, we all belong. We all belong. And it is our responsibility individually to live the best life possible so that you can maximize your time here on earth, so that you can maximize the blessing. The world wants us to feel so diminished, so restricted, and so limited so that those who are in control can have more of the things that people are giving up because they don't feel worthy. When you don't feel worthy, and you can test this for yourself, when you don't feel worthy, when you don't feel, how can I put it, valuable enough, you squander your resources. You don't try as hard as you know you could. You don't study as much as you know you should. You don't love as hard as or as deeply as you could because your value has been diminished by the things that the world tells you. But when you turn around and you begin to realize that you are just as valuable as anybody else on this planet, and your days here are limited, and you have a certain amount of time to get things done, you're going to take that thing more seriously. And when you start to take that thing more seriously, you start to take back. You start to take back all of the things that the enemy tried to steal. And this is why it is so important that you begin to get a hold of identify your strengths and your weaknesses, identify your dysfunction, identify all of those things that are holding you back so that you can redeem the time, you can redeem the money, you can redeem all of the resources that belong to you. Each and every one of us on this planet, God has allocated resources for us. God has allocated resources. God does not place us in an environment where heaven is not going to provide for us. Heaven has not thought of you. Heaven has not imagined you. Heaven has not created and allowed you to be birthed without a plan. There is a plan for you spiritually, there is a plan for you mentally, and there is a plan for you physically. Think about it this way. When God showed me this, it was so powerful. God has made room for everyone. There you go, Erica. The enemy is mad. Can you hear me? I don't know. Okay, speak up, Erica, when you're back and you can hear me. But God has you in mind. So think about it. Wherever you go, God has made space. God has made space for you. If you go to the grocery store, there's a parking space. If you go to church, there's a space in the pew. If you're looking for a house, there's a space for you. If there's anything that you're looking for, a job, a restaurant, a seat at the table, heaven has made space for you. But it's your responsibility to take the space that God has made. So, Erica, you back. The enemy is mad. She froze again. Oh, my God. Is it? Can y'all hear me? Is she still frozen? Am I frozen now? I don't know. Y'all let me know through the chat. This is going to be a good one. We're going to have to redo this one. She's frozen. I'm not frozen. So y'all can hear me. Okay, well, we're going to keep this party going. So we go. Oh my God, this is hilarious. Erica must have some fire for y'all tonight. This is anyway. So if you have space, think about it. On this live, God has made space for you. At your job, God has made space for you. In your family, God has made space for you. The only reason you're not occupying all of the spaces that heaven has allocated for you is because you're downplaying your existence. Once you stop downplaying your existence, there is room for everything that heaven has given you to do. So it's very important that you begin to identify where you belong. Where do you belong economically? Where do you belong intellectually? Where do you belong spiritually? Where do you belong physically? And once you begin to identify those spaces, and this is the most important part, pay attention to the desires in your heart. God places the desires in your heart. So when you desire a
It's
thing,
very important that
okay. Oh, Erica, you back now? Girl, what did you have in store tonight? Because the enemy is big mad.
let me tell you something. This is a classic example of coming out of dysfunction. Now, the old me would have been all upset. Oh my God, perfect. Talking about that. It's not perfect. But honey, let me tell you something. This one right here. When you know that you on the side, you will have your hands and later that you are doing something right. See, so many times when we think this stuff, oh my God, no. You got to think about impact of what's happening. So
And
I rejoice. Go ahead.
let me tell you something. We have literally been in the hospital all day
Oh my
from
God.
like 7 o'clock this morning up until just before I got on a call tonight. And riding home, I was like, oh my God, Mike, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this call. I said, oh my goodness, Erica may have to do this. God said, yes, you will. You're going to have more than enough time. And so when I got home, I'm like rushing around. I was like, "Oh my God, Erica's on there waiting for me." I get on, and Erica's having technical difficulties, and she can't even get her because I'm getting my default setting is
Come
my
on.
default setting. My default setting. I'm tired. I'm hungry, and I'll just jump back on next week. God said, no, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. You gonna do this. You gonna do this, and you gonna do it in excellence. And you gonna have enough time. See, I would have said I didn't have time, Erica. I don't have enough time to jump on. Look at God. Look at
And he knew. He knew all this was going to go down today.
when I tell you a sister is tired, I was like, oh my God. I can't God said, watch this. Let me show you what I'm getting ready to do. The dysfunction. God is working with both me and Eric in both our default settings. Our deep
So you get it live. See, this is a part of the evolve and elevate with Erica. We are evolving and elevating in real time. You get to walk away with real time.
Oh my God. Oh my goodness. And seriously, I was like, Erica might have to do this call by herself tonight. And God was like, let me show you something. Erica ain't gonna even be on the call tonight. You gonna do it.
Yeah, but off my own show. Ain't that something?
Ain't that so? That's hilarious.
God
That's
is good.
hilarious.
I'm telling you.
Hilarious. You
And,
can't make this stuff up. You can't make this
and
stuff up.
you keep moving. See, this is the thing. When trouble arises, we stop moving.
Mm-hmm.
We quit. You talk about it all the time. Quitting too fast. We
Don't quit
quit.
another
And
thing.
we don't keep walking because see, sometimes your next step will be the necessary breakthrough that you need. And it allows you, when you push past a thing, it also breaks something in you to let
Ooh.
you know, take that next step. You know what, you can go a little bit further. You know what, you did overcome. And see, once you have overcome a situation, that becomes a marker in your life that you can go back to and always go back to that place. If I showed up then, he's gonna do it again. If I made it through that, I can do. That's the thing that authenticates your faith. That's the thing that makes you for real, for real. How can you
Mm-mm.
become an overcomer if you don't have an obstacle?
Welp.
You're going to have to
Mm,
have
mm,
to
mm,
become
mm,
victorious. You're going to have some Goliaths to fight.
mm, 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 mm. My God. My
And those
God.
Goliaths are there to show you that you were David all the time.
All the time. And that's the thing. It's like God will give you rest. Like, once you are done with the assignment, once you are done with everything that heaven gives you, heaven will give you rest. But when you give up too soon, you don't know when you need rest. You don't know when you don't know, how can I put it? You don't know when you've exhausted all of your resources when you give up too soon.
Mm-hmm.
When you have exhausted all of your resources, that's when heaven steps up mightily, and
Mm-hmm.
not 1 second before.
Mm-hmm.
When you have exhausted everything that you think you understand, then heaven steps in, and not 1 second prior to that moment. But you can't give up. You
You
can't give
can't. You
up.
need to hurry up, go through them options so you can see what heaven got too. So don't delay the
Mm-mm.
process. See, we wait too long, and we
Mm.
don't want to deal with the inevitable. But see, the part of it is you want God to show up. So go ahead and do what you got to do. Do it expeditiously. Move fast.
Mm-mm.
Get it
And
done
see,
quick.
think about it. Think about it this way. Had I done my default setting,
Mhm.
and I said, Erica, I'm tired, and you did your default setting, Leash, this isn't coming out right. Let's just cancel tonight, and we'll start again next week. The enemy would have won because both of our default settings lined up at the perfect time. Like, the enemy is like sitting up there like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And God's like, yeah, no,
Mm-mm.
that's not what this is.
Mm-mm.
That's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
That's powerful. I love this. I love it.
I do too.
I just got, and it's funny because before I got on this live, I was exhausted. Now it's like I've had a shot of caffeine. I mean, I'm energized. Now I gotta calm myself down to rest. But that's how heaven does. The enemy wants to make you feel defeated. But if heaven gives you the strength to keep going, keep moving, because that's where you're going to find the blessing.
Mm-hmm.
That's powerful.
Me and my daughter had a talk the other day. We were talking about boundaries, and we still talking about self-awareness and dysfunction and all this. We were talking about boundaries, and she's 23. So, she's an adult, she's finishing up college, she's about to move on her own, all these different things. So we were talking about how when you begin to set boundaries and you are aware of what you want and what works for you, it automatically becomes a filter for the other stuff. Because we were talking about how her and her brother, they're very friendly, charismatic people. She said, I found myself in friendships that I really didn't even want to be in because I'm just a nice person. Like, by default, you just a nice person. I said, but when you have the right boundaries, you begin to understand that people have to qualify to be in certain places in your life. And I asked her
Mhm.
this question. I said, I see your goals and I see you got all these things that are up here. I said, but where are you in your goals?
Hmm.
Where are you? Where's your sacred space in all the stuff that you do? Where is the sacred space that you have just for you? And that was something that I had to learn because I wanted to be all things to all people. And I thought that taking time, I was conditioned that being by myself, it wasn't the right thing to do. You got to go and got to move all the time. But I call it my God space. It's just me and the Lord, nobody else, just us. I said, where is your God space? Where nobody else is in that space for you so you can recharge.
Mhm.
so that you can get yourself back together again when you've had a long day, you had to push through, you had to overcome. I said, where's that place where you go to reset?
Mhm.
And she looked at her goal. She said, I got to redo this. She said, because I'm not in here. I said, it's almost like a circle. You start with you and God, then the outer layer is your intimate relationships, and the next outer ring is your friendships, and the next outer ring is your associates. And so when you find yourself so far on the outside of that ring, you've gotten out of alignment of where you need to be.
Amen.
And we have
Mhm.
to not to take time for ourselves to reset.
Mhm.
Because life is
Amen.
gonna keep on lifing. Life is
Mhm.
gonna keep doing what it's gonna do. But
Mhm.
if we don't have that balance and demand, see, sometimes we don't demand, see, we don't ask God to move on certain things that keep us aligned and in his Kairos timing. Because the world wants to pull us back out to what, because it throws off the world when we're not doing what the world is doing. It throws, because they're expecting us to be there, and it throws it off a little bit.
Mhm.
But oh, when we get that recharge, and oh, when we get reset, we can come out swinging again and to keep
Mm.
it moving. So I really appreciate your time today with
Mm.
all that you have had to endure, and to keep it going, that I could pass the ball that you didn't even know I had to pass, and that we kept it going tonight. But this allows you to see that when we don't get caught up in the dysfunction that keeps trying to chase us and drag
Mhm.
us back,
Mhm.
we still find ourselves in a place of freedom. That when
Mhm.
stuff don't work out perfect, guess what? Chalk it up as an experience.
Well, see, this before we go, this is one reason why I want everyone to be a spirit-led entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm,
Not necessarily for the gazillions that the world tells you that you can make,
mm-hmm,
but just so that you can feel the freedom of operating in the truth of who God has created you to be.
mm-hmm,
Because if we took this platform right here and Erica and I, we were working for someone else, and that boss or that supervisor, that director, honey, there would be a meeting after this call.
sure.
Well, what happened? Did you not test the equipment before? Did you not book your schedule accordingly so that you could be home in time? Did you not? And see, this is why people are afraid to really excel in the truth of who God has created them to be, because we have placed ourselves under so much authority that we don't realize how loving God is. Like Erica and I, we're operating under God's authority.
Mm-hmm,
And because we're operating under God's authority, there is such latitude and such grace and such mercy.
mm-hmm,
And you can enjoy the assignment. So if for no other reason, it behooves you greatly to really tap into the truth of the assignment that God has given you and maximize that thing, and
mm-hmm,
stop stopping because the word. I've been in these groups. I've been in these groups with these multi-million, and it's so sad and so disheartening. There are people there who are enjoying what they're doing and they love what they're doing, and you have these leaders who are multi-millionaires, and they're like, well, how much do you make a month? I'm bringing in, like X amount. That's not enough. You can do more. And people start to feel like their efforts are diminished because of the dollar amount. But when you take yourself away from all of that and you start to operate spiritually from an entrepreneurial perspective, oh my God. Oh my God. The freedom. The freedom.
The word says that God will continue to give seeds to the sower. As
Mm,
we sow seeds with the words that we speak, if one person,
mm,
one, can become more aware,
mm.
can free themselves from generational dysfunction, can free themselves in such a way to open up and to speak and ask for what they want, and to really be able to answer the question, this is what I want, and
Mhm.
communicate that, and change the dynamics of their marriage, their
Honey,
relationship with their children, their relationship with their grandchildren, to break down and to dismantle the generational curses that have tried to plague them for generations. I've done exactly what, to be able to be transparent and to share the things that have transpired, that have allowed me to gain a greater degree of wisdom through trial and tribulation, but I've triumphed over them. If you can stand to tell the story, you triumphed over it. You were victorious over it. That in itself will pay more dividends than you could
honey,
ever put
you
a
can't
dollar
put
amount on.
you can't put a price on that.
You
So
can't.
stop letting the world rob you of your true assignment because it don't have the dollar signs that the world wants you to show. The money will come. I promise you that. It will come. But don't keep it. Oh my gosh, it frustrates me so much to just see people jumping from one thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next thing because this isn't making money. This isn't making money. This isn't. Hold on, God is trying to teach you something before you get to the money because heaven knows that once you lay hands on the money, you release the hold that you have on heaven.
Wow.
The money comes last.
Uh,
Hang on to that assignment long enough, and long enough that the money doesn't matter.
mm,
So that when the money does come, you use it instead of it using you. See,
that's it.
people act different with money.
Oh, yes.
People will compromise their morals. People will try to use their money to get you to do things that you really don't want to do, to hang out with people that you really don't want to hang out with, to be in scenarios that you don't want to be in. This is why I constantly teach provision over money
All the time.
all the time.
All the time.
So let tonight be an example to y'all that when you are operating in the truth of who God has created you to be, you don't have to be afraid. You don't have to be. Eric and I, we're not going to get off this call tonight like, oh my God, what you think people thought? You think that was bad? You think this was the. Honey, we going to sleep good tonight. We be like, we see y'all
Oh,
next
yeah.
Monday.
Mm-mm.
And keep moving.
Because we understand the power of what is being done.
And it's not perfect. Stop waiting on perfection. But the message was perfect for those who needed to hear it.
Exactly.
That's our only
Exactly.
assignment. That's
That's
it.
it. That's it.
Mm, mm,
All
mm.
right, y'all. So I hope it was as good for you as it was for us, because it was amazing. We love it. So we may have to go to part 3. We still have not dived into the strengths and weaknesses. Oh God, I don't even know where that's gonna lead us. But we will go ahead and make this part 3 next week. Join us. I just ask, share, tag, like, subscribe. We greatly appreciate it. Let someone know about Evolve and Elevate with Erica, and bring them with you here next week. Thank you, Alicia, for your time. Many blessings to you. I thank you so much. I'm going to be adding a link to the chat because I want others to be a part of this conversation. And if you're interested to be a part of this platform, we want to know who you are so we can get into the conversation with you as we continue to evolve and elevate, grow, and be our best self. I love you all. Have an amazing evening, and we'll talk to you again soon.